My name's Fishsuit. This is my buddy Vlor. I am a Twitch DM, and Vlor is one of my players, and we are currently working our way through the Lost Mine of Fandelver campaign, and we're about to start a second on-stream campaign on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/fishsuit. Um, and there's a lot happening in our campaign, and we just spent some time doing like about a month and a half of side quests, maybe 2 months of side quest sessions. So we're heading back to the main Lost Mine campaign, and so we decided that we wanted to do some recap. And Vlor had this awesome idea of maybe putting this into a podcast format. So um, here we are. Anyway, I thought of a name for this podcast, Vlor, and I thought we would call it Insight Check, but there's
Ooh.
already an Insight Check podcast.
Oh.
So feels bad, man. But anyway, yeah. If anybody has any ideas for what we should call her, it's, welcome to unnamed. Welcome to unnamed podcast. Welcome to unnamed DnD podcast number 5 or whatever.
What do we
Because
call it? Unconscious and dying. Or
I
so you're unconscious and dying.
I kind of love unconscious and dying. Hang on, I gotta post my Twitch live notification here. We do stream this podcast live on my Twitch channel, and I cannot post it. I cannot go to my Discord on my computer because if I do, then you will lose Vlor. You will no longer be able to see Vlor. So, give me just a moment. Vlor, you fill with some talking. Talk now.
This is me talking.
No.
Oh no, so yeah, I've always been a fan of D&D. It's just that it's kind of hard to get into some D&D, especially if your current friends don't play. But I think that um, there's a lot of resources out there for people to get into D&D, and I think it's a good way to meet new people and to give you that fantasy fix if you're tired of the real world.
Sure, yeah. Well, especially think of the timing for this campaign that we started, which was like at the very beginning of the pandemic, right? I mean, we started this campaign. I think our first session was March 14th, 15th. It was like right at the very start of all of this. So, I think I mean, that's absolutely right. It's just like this is some really good escapism, and you're right. It is hard to get into this kind of as an adult. Um, Not only like because I never played this when I was a kid. I don't know about you, Floor. Maybe we can get into that a little bit. But I never played this when I was a kid. I never was into tabletop RPGs at all until I was in my like late 20s when I think I bought the Lost Mine of Fandelver, which is the kind of starting adventure that they give you in the um, like the D&D starter set. This is
Mhm.
when you see that D&D starter set, many of you might even be familiar with this cover art that we're seeing right now, which is that um because this is what they give you when you buy that starter set. Um and Hey, what's going on, Book Fairy? Yes, we set up our green screens and everything today. Um and so yeah, I didn't really get into this until then, and but so with the added wrinkle of that, I think like a lot of people who did get into this when they were kids have had like an infinite amount of time and could play for you know 8 10 hour sessions once per week. And I mean, we've even seen just in the last 6 months of doing this that we um, it's adult schedules are not easy to deal with. So you're absolutely right. It's a little bit some extra challenges as to trying to play Dungeons and Dragons as an adult. Um,
Yeah.
but without further ado, let's get into it here. Um, Talking about the Lost Mine of Fandelver. So we started. Let's talk about our player characters here first. Well, let me ask you, Vlor, what expectations did you have going into this campaign?
It really wasn't very much expectations. This was my first real D&D campaign.
Because you're coming from
Um,
Pathfinder.
yeah, I played some Pathfinder. I played a little bit with my brother whenever I was first getting into it, like actually getting into it about 3 4 years ago, and then I got a group of Pathfinder people, and I really wanted to get in D&D because, of course, podcasts, shows that I've watched that have really, brought D&D to life for a lot of people, even in movies or TV shows, Stranger Things, you
Sure.
know. Um,
Yeah, I think they even released like a Stranger Things set or adventure or something like that. I mean, that's an amazing tie-in for them for sure.
yeah, yeah, but this was definitely my first campaign with D&D, so I know a lot of the rules. But of course, there are different things from Pathfinder, and it's kind of hard to think because Pathfinder was basically 3.5 D&D.
Sure.
Um, so upgraded rules, so kind of hard to. So I didn't really think of anything as far as expectations.
Okay.
Um, let's just have fun.
Yeah, so and I have never this might be you might already know this floor, but I've never played any Pathfinder games, but I've listened to a lot of Pathfinder play. And so I definitely take some of my cues, and there's definitely like if you ever watch our campaign um on Twitch or on YouTube, you'll see like sometimes like just the way that I, as a DM, the way that I allow the game to flow and certain like minutia of the rules. I might not be playing by the book for 5e. I'm actually playing more like we're playing Pathfinder, especially with um, just like little like especially with the action economy. So in D&D 5e, I feel like the action economy is like you can do whatever you want, thousands of things per turn. And Pathfinder is definitely more strict when it comes to that. And I do play the action economy a little more strict. And sometimes my players hate that, but I do try to run it like fairly. And Book Variant Chat brings up a good point, which is that Wizards actively encourages people to adjust the rules. Like they basically say this rule book is not the end all be all guide for how to play this. You should adjust these rules depending on how you'd like to play the game, and so we definitely do that. But there's a couple things that we pull directly from Pathfinder as we play, which is the concept first, just the concept of concealment. Um, so D&D has cover, and we play cover and concealment. So cover, just like a bonus to your AC if you're hiding behind, partially behind stuff or completely behind stuff. And in 5e, the concept of concealment doesn't exist at all, which is basically a percentage to miss. And so we pull that directly from Pathfinder. Now, this campaign, I mean, we've used it very sparingly. There's not been a lot of chances to use it, but I just when we were doing custom rule sets, I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that that might be a possibility. And we also confirm criticals, which is not something that happens in 5e at all. It only really happens in Pathfinder confirmed crits, and we use some crits and fumbles cards that to spice up our critical hits and critical fumbles, and a lot of that stuff is right from Pathfinder games. So we modify that for 5e as best I can on the fly.
Yeah.
um,
One thing that I'm curious to see how it's going to play out is if I know that certain spell casting classes offer a particular spell that helps you to cancel out criticals.
okay.
So I'm curious to see how that's going to play into that little setup. It could work out just fine. Canceling a critical is not really that big of a.
Yeah, some of these critical cards, like I have definitely skipped over critical cards that have said like permadeath. you know,
Yeah,
like I don't think we play we definitely play in a way that like I'm not actively trying to kill my characters. I'm not like coup de grace and that sort of thing. Um, to try to actually murder them. That being said, once we get into the talking about the actual campaign here a little bit, we'll see that we've had some extra wrinkles. Um, so yeah, why don't you tell us about your character, and then I'll talk about the rest of our player characters in our campaign here for.
Sure. Of course, I play Azrael Nilo, the old man wood elf. He's basically been traveling or by himself in the woods after his little monastery was attacked and destroyed. Um, he every time he gets close to someone, they end up dying, and he really wasn't into that. So he spent most of his time in the woods and in his old age, because he's like what 600, which is pretty old in elf
He's
years.
a young 600 though.
He's still pretty
He's a
spry.
spry 600.
Yeah, and a part of his act is the old man act. He's not stupid, but he's been playing the old senile man for so long that it kind of feels right, and it it was easier to push people away, um, being in that situation. So that's kind of how I was playing it, and it feels like we're at a point though that it's no longer necessary.
Yeah, so I was gonna say like there's definitely like just there's some confusion on my part, and I think there's some confusion on your other players' parts where it's like, what is this character? Like,
Yeah.
because he's kind of like he is doing some stuff that's like, he was like lying in some sort of situations that didn't really require a lie, and then that was like really backing him into some like weird corners, and then, um, but like they're really like this character is like really evolved throughout the sessions too, and when we get to the end of talking about this, yeah, what is your alignment, Lord?
Um, it's been so long.
Yeah,
I
I know,
tell
right? When we get
you.
to the end of this, we'll see like that, that Azrael's like changed quite a bit. And
I feel like it's chaotic good.
yeah, I think so too. I think you're right. Um, so you guys are level 3, right?
Yeah, I didn't we. No, yeah, we're still level 3.
Level 3, yeah. I think you're very close to level 4, but so we started this campaign with Azrael. We also the reason I asked you about expectations, and this is I can already tell this is going to be like a long boy. This is going to be our first podcast here, and it's going to be long because we're going to have to set up some of the background and stuff. So hope you're buckled in there, Vlor. I don't. I've listened to a lot of actual plays that are silly, and I've listened to a lot of actual plays that are serious, and it's always kind of like you never really know where you're going to land until you start to play. But
Yeah.
maybe I should have had the idea that we were going to have a kind of a silly campaign when our buddy Mini Bulba came in here with the character I as fuck. I as fuck. And so I is a druid, and um, she is like more focused around wild shape. I'm not sure what the we don't, I don't actually have access to her full character sheet here. We use Roll20 sort of. We use like a hybrid Roll20 system where a lot of our stuff is. Our players just keep it separately because on our stream, if you ever check out our live streams from these, we have some special rolling software, and it's even getting more complicated now where we're going to have some like 3D dice that are rolled right on stream. So I don't have the character sheets all pulled up in front of me here, but yeah, I is a human druid, and she, and you'll know some of this, Floor, and I don't want to give away too much here because as a player character, you are sort of in the dark about some of your companions. But she is definitely, let's just say, very interested in some looking for some mushrooms, and she has been sort of on a lifelong quest to find some mushrooms. And she also is like very, I believe that she purchased quite a lot of halfling leaf, so that'll give you an indication of kind of Ai's general demeanor and how she acts. Um, we also have we started out the campaign with our buddy Cunning Fox Puck playing a paladin named Arlen Dora, and you see Vlor's little chuckle there, which we will You'll understand here in just a little while as Arlen is no longer with the party. Arlen was our paladin, and he he was just kind of a down on his luck paladin in where were you guys, like Waterdeep, Neverwinter. He started in Neverwinter, kind of down on his luck paladin, and was just looking to make a quick buck by joining this group. Also with us, rounding out our 4-player party, is of course Gamer Heroine as Gamer Bardowin, which made me roll my eyes so hard. It still does really. Gamer Bardowin, our bard. But Gamer Bardowin is just her stage name though, so don't even worry about it. Just her stage name. Do you guys know what her real name is? Maybe we might not have revealed that yet. But it's no better. let me just point out, it's no better. Gamer Bardowin, our bard, and in the first town she visited, Gamer Bardowin we had this like idea for this really cool weapon. So she actually plays a little ukulele, but and she uses in combat a ukulele crossbow. So we had somebody in Phandalin, our main town, modify her ukulele so that's her actual weapon as well. And she's good at she's the vicious she is a vicious mocker. So that's the kind of bard she's playing. She's like a little friendly, little happy-go-lucky halfling. And I should have mentioned that Arlen, I believe, was a half elf. Not that it really matters, as we'll get into. So you guys, anyway, you started this campaign, and you guys were all hired by this dwarf in Neverwinter named Gundren Rockseeker, and he asked you to bring a wagon load of stuff to this trading post, this trading town called Phandalin. And Phandalin was a town that was kind of like a boom settlement town, and then was raided, and the town basically fell. And within the last few years, there's been some increased like mining activity in the area, so Phandalin is like back to life now. And so he asked you to bring some supplies there to Phandalin, and him and his buddy Sildar Hallwinter were going to meet you there. And so you started out from Neverwinter, and you were going down. You had turned off of the main high road to. Let me get our map out here. So you have your. I love the fact that you still have your. You'll still have your Fog of War on here. But so you went down the high roads to and you turned onto the Tribor Trail. And basically, as soon as you turned onto the trail here, you saw that there was some dead horses, and you guys investigated. You were ambushed by some goblins there, which you soundly defeated. I think every single one of those goblins got one-shotted. And you discovered basically that this was clearly where Gundren and Sildar had been ambushed, and they both looked like they had their bodies that were dragged away. And so you followed down the trail to try to find out where they were taken. One thing that I recall specifically from this section, vlor, is Azrael going into the woods to try to stealth. And I think this is like your first natural one of the campaign, where you really failed a stealth roll, and it was like the very first failed roll. And being a new DM I just remember like how nervous I was during this time, and then now thinking like, oh, that was silly to be nervous. Like, I shouldn't have been nervous. We did fine.
I really enjoyed jumping over the hedge and getting the staff to that goblin's face.
So that's a thing that sticks out for me too quite a bit. Welcome in, Boom. Thanks so much for joining us on your Sunday, my friend. We're just recapping our D&D sessions here, both I think for our benefit and for maybe some of our other players and anybody who's interested in catching up and starting the campaign. And let me just add, one of the reasons that we're doing this too is that Vlor and I are going to be starting a second campaign with himself and then 3 new players. And we're going to be playing the new adventure path, the Rime of the Frost Maiden. and that's going to start on Monday, September 28th, 2020. So if you are seeing this after that, it's already started. If you're seeing this before that, that's when it starts. Anyway, so yeah, we get to this little like cavern entrance with some water coming out, with some a stream coming out, and there was some goblins like chilling out over here, and they were completely kind of unaware of what was happening. And there was some impenetrable forest. Right. Whoops, that's not right. Oh no, we're at the dragon fight. That's not what I meant to go. So and Azrael jumped up like here, rolled some acrobatics, did like a vault over top of these bushes, and I believe just like one shot at a goblin right there in front of the caves.
Yeah.
You guys get inside. There's 3 wolves that you find pretty quickly that are tied up in here. And your resident druid spends a few minutes trying to figure out exactly what this is and how to approach this. Eventually, I think she also had used an animal to talk with animals to like talk with your oxen.
Yeah.
She just like blew a spell slot because they're like, this is a silly campaign. Fish suit won't possibly kill us. And so we're walking in here, and she's already like, well, fuck, I should have used speak with animals to talk with the ox. Because he was just like, because I think the ox was just like, do you have any sugar cubes? You know, he was just like, all he wanted was a sugar cube. So we get in here, and she's like, doesn't really want to spend any other spell slots, you know, fearing combat. And eventually, I think she rolls a really good animal handling. And these, let me tell you about these wolves here in the guide. So, yeah, so they are like chained to the ground, and you can attempt to calm the animals with a DC 15 animal handling check. And on a success, they allow the characters to move through, and I believe that, and also the DC drops to 10 if they're fed, and I believe that you did feed them, or somebody fed them. She might have fed them, but you just couldn't quite figure out. So she fed them, but they were still like angry, and so she just couldn't quite figure out how to get by. And then I believe that she booped one on the snoot, just to like, hey, knock it off. And then she was and then they were docile, and they allowed you to pass through there. And oh, she did cast Speak with Animals here, and they were just like, meat, give us meat, or something like that.
Another waste of a spell.
Yeah, so that's like all of her druid spells right there. What's going on, Bob? Negamir, welcome in, you guys. Welcome in. We're just getting started on our Lost Mine. Negamir, this might be specifically helpful to you, dude, as Negamir is going to be himself a new DM vlor, and is going to start running a Lost Mine of Phandelver campaign himself. So hopefully you get some insight here.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's one of the things that, you know, you broadcasting these sessions and us doing this is definitely going to help people that are either getting started as a new DM or are looking to be a player but want to know a little bit more so that they're not that one player that has no idea what they're doing and holds up the...
Yeah, and I think that like when we started this campaign, everybody had played, but I think that of the people that we have in this campaign, that Gamer Heroine probably has the least like in the what am I looking for? Like in the realm of 5e, because she's played a lot of like homebrew, I think, and just from talking to her, I think a lot of her DMs have just there's a lot of like house rules type stuff, and so
Yeah.
the rules as written nitty gritty type stuff, I think that she was probably the newest to this, and I would hesitate to say, like, I know that you've played a lot, but certainly Cunning Fox is our go-to expert on the 5e rule book. And I'm definitely like a little nervous even about not having Cunning Fox in our group on a live stream, because when I'm playing with friends offline or off stream, it's very easy to be like, all right, hang on a second, guys, I'm gonna go look up this rule, and we might spend 10 minutes like looking up the errata on the forums and stuff to see how a certain thing works. Whereas on stream, that's not always possible. And so
Yeah.
I am a little nervous to be like, Cunning Fox, how's that work? You know what I mean? Because he just has the answer because he's played so much of this. Um, but yeah, so I agree, Vlora, and like I think it's neat. Like if we could inspire people to play this game that I love and that you love, that's awesome. I mean, that's such a great bonus for playing D&D on stream.
Yeah.
And I really think when you first started coming into the stream and we first started to become friends, that you were the one who was like, Fishsuit, you should play some D&D on stream again, dude. You know, because we had basically stopped our campaign at one point, you know, and you were like, I really, you know, you should get it going again. And I was kind of on the fence for a long time, but ultimately I think that you you know, you're one of the people who got me going on this and, you know, got us started on stream D&D. Yeah, I mean, You're right, Boom. Like everybody who I know that plays D&D, basically, like I got started on D&D. It's like Boom Byron, Waffle Cone, Wookiee's playing D&D with us now. You know, so we did get a lot of people started on D&D, which is awesome, and it's been just like it's allowed me to practice being a DM, and I've just tried to get better and better being a DM. Okay, so yeah, so Eyes up here, and do you remember anything about what Azrael's doing right here, Vlor?
Probably just keeping a lookout. He wasn't really a big player in the investigation and stuff like that at the beginning.
Yeah, he was just kind of like, why am I in this group? Almost like there was definitely some. He wasn't quite sure what his role was going to be, and I believe you almost died several times here at the very start of this. It is very easy as a level 1 character in 5e to die. It is very easy.
The other thing is that I was kind of getting in there like a tank, and
true.
If anyone has seen my stat block, they'll know I am not a tank.
Yeah, I mean, especially at level 1, like you could take a few hits now, but I mean, you have a low AC. Monks have a pretty low AC. You're meant to sort of get in there, have a ton of movement, get in there, and then get out. It's kind of like rogues in that way, although you don't have a lot of the built-in stuff of the rogue that allows you to disengage from a combat. For instance, our buddy Boom out there in chat is now a 6th level rogue in our campaign, and you know he's dancing in and out. He's dancing in, he's disengaging. He has just a load of movement. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a character that I've played with that can move as much as Boom Byron's character can. He has a load of movement. He can, you know, he has the cunning action where he can disengage from chat. And he also took a feat that gives him some extra movement. Like his move speed is nuts. He can move across the entire like map at a time. It's bonkers. I calms down these wolves, and I think that at this point, Gamer Bardowin and I are up here, and they are inspecting this chimney. And they are trying, and I'm honestly over here praying that they don't make it up the chimney, because I'm like, this is going to be really complex if they make it up the chimney. Well, of course, one thing leads to another. They make it up the chimney. There's in this thing now that are all dead. There's 2 goblins, and what we now know is a bugbear. But we didn't correctly identify this bugbear at a time, and also like a large wolf. So, Gamer Bardowin makes it up there, and then I as fuck makes it up there. But Gamer Bardowin has dark vision. Does a halfling have dark vision or no? No, I guess not. I think that as soon as
I don't think either one of them had dark vision.
That's right. So Gamer Bardowin makes it up and is hidden. Is successfully stealths up here behind like a stalagmite. And then I gets up there, and as soon as I gets up there, these goblins and stuff know what's happening, especially the wolf. And so I think the wolf comes over and just tears into I. And then combat starts, where it's basically you and Arlen are down. I'm about to sneeze. Oh boy. Excuse me. You and Arlen are down here, and these guys are up a 30-foot chimney, and combat starts.
You forgot to mention one of the most important things. They had a torch.
Right. I think that's what ultimately like made them. I think that's ultimately what made them like not be stealthed anymore, is the fact that they had this torch.
Yeah.
Long story short, they disengaged from that combat. I didn't chase them down the chimney. I just made them so that they were aware that somebody was in here. Somebody was here, and they were actively trying to get to them. Excuse me. You guys continue up here. As you get up here, you see this little bridge. And on the bridge, you see a goblin. And the goblin sees you and ducks away. And suddenly you hear this whooshing of water as a giant wave comes crashing down this cave. I think that this is what ultimately made you, for the first time in this campaign, and not the last time, vlor, go unconscious and dying. I think you failed to save.
Yeah.
I think everybody else saved or got out of the way in some way, but you failed and you were washed away. Hey, what's going on, Mini Bulba? Mini Bulba, Mini Bulba as fuck. Here in the chat with us. You guys then start making your way back up here, and Arlen, your paladin, Cunning Fox says the famous last words of, "They can't possibly be able to do that twice." Well, let me go ahead and pull this up, because they absolutely can do that twice. So this is an area called Flood. Basically, if the goblin sees you and you if you have any light at all, he sees you, and the goblins in Area 7 can release a second flood by opening the second pool, but they don't do this unless the goblin on the bridge tells them to. The goblin on the bridge waits to see if the first flood got rid of all the intruders before calling for the second one to be released. So as you're going up there, the second one hits, and I think that everybody saved from that too. It was kind of no big deal. We spent some time here considering to tie a rope around Gamer Barterwin and throw her up over the bridge just to get up there. But instead, you guys just walked all the way around here. You had a brief combat with a few goblins. You guys were just absolutely murdering these goblins. It wasn't even close. While you were here, you disabled, I believe, this device that was causing the wave pool floods. And then you started to head into this cave where you knew that there was all these, this bugbear and the wolf and the goblins. But as you get in here, they're all missing. They're all hiding. And so everybody walked in, and then, of course, you were in the middle of a boss combat because they all knew you were coming. Let's take a look at the bugbear stat block here, vlor. I'm going to share it with you so that you can take a look on your side. You should be able to see bugbear in there now. So this is what I was talking about as far as like how easy it is for first level players to die in 5e. Because, I mean, you guys are probably sitting at like maybe 15 hit points now. I'm not sure what a 5e character really starts at. It's been 6 months or whatever since we've had them, but you're really sitting at a low. You're under 20 HP. So this ability that they have called Surprise Attack, where the bugbear surprises you and hits with an attack during the first round of combat, which is what happened here. It hits with an extra 2d6. So if he hits with a Morningstar, he's hitting you for 2d8 plus 2d6. And Clark came out and missed. So, any thoughts about the stat block here, vlor? This might be the first time you're looking at it. It's pretty standard.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't. Honestly, he doesn't seem like he's that big of a deal. As far, you know, later on stat blocks that you see, he seemed like he was on the same kind of level that we were. He just had a better to hit than us.
Yeah, he just missed, right? But if he hits that first attack, man, that whole combat is like very different.
Yeah.
I think that Mini Bulba as did some clutch through a bone, because you guys are also carrying like goblin arms and stuff with you. So the inventory of these characters is something we really would love. I would love to take a look at your character sheets. But yeah, that first attack against Cunning's Arlen character really could have just ended the combat. And while we're in here, just to quickly mention, you guys found some loot. There was some supplies and stuff that you guys did not take. while you're in here, also, I found a mushroom here in the corner and ended up taking it. Wasn't quite sure what it was. Couldn't identify it. It ended up as kind of a set piece, though, for some of our future adventures. And this is actually where we ended session one. We just killed Clark, the leader of the Cragmaw Hide. This is called Cragmaw Hideout. I agree, Dave. This is an awesome map. All the maps in this are really nice, actually. The thing that I maybe my one comment about 5e maps, especially the ones that Wizards puts out, is that some of the combat areas feel very cramped. I would
Yeah.
like some larger areas to fight in. Sometimes it's really difficult to create a fun combat that's on a tiny map. It's like, well, the character's just going to stand there. He's not going to try to squeeze through this little tiny hallway or whatever. And so that's my one comment about sort of 5e maps, or the way that Wizards put them out.
I don't know. I think that some of these they do that on purpose because the the inhabitants or the enemies are trying to bottleneck the players really,
Yeah,
and I think it kind of fits. It's really hard in such a small area for the players to maneuver and get into place without taking a tax of opportunity. And I think that's one of the things, especially with like a lower level one like this, um, with the players being as equipped as they are at the very beginning. Taking out a band of goblins really isn't that big of a deal unless you bottleneck them and give them, take away their freedom of movement and um, really put them in a pinch.
yeah. I think it works both ways too, though, because then it doesn't allow me to get in and maybe do all the things in combat that I would like to do. Um, Especially like if I can see weaker characters in the back and I can't get to them. Whereas you guys are fighting like essentially, especially in something like this, where every goblin has the same stat block except for like the leader in here. But I hear what you're saying. At the same time, it's like I would like to have a combat in a big hallway where you were staring down the enemy at the start. It seems like much more epic than like I see this whole room through this tiny little crack, and now you know what I mean. Now I have to figure out how to get around and get in there, rather than just like we're gonna bang, we're gonna stand here and bang. Um, so you guys head over here and you see um, a bunch of goblins in here, and you're not quite sure what's happening until I'm not sure. I think you might have started. You might have been up front and started the combat here. Does that sound right?
I think maybe because I probably snuck forward to see what was going on.
I think that's right. And basically, you saw this human that we now know is Sildar Hallwinter. So one of the people who was with Gundren Rockseeker, um, and Sildar is basically like on death's door. I believe that as written in this adventure, he has 1 HP. Um, and yeah, he's being held prisoner. He's weak and has 1 hit point. He's up on top of like a 10-foot embankment here with the goblin leader Yemik. And so you guys have a little exchange here where Yemik's like, "I'm gonna murder this guy," and you're like, "Yeah, if he drops him off there, he'll probably die." Um, I believe that then you barter. Maybe Arlen might be up here bartering for exchanging Sildar for not harming the goblins. Successfully
Yeah,
gets Sildar out of there, and then you went in and massacred all these goblins. While Arlen is ferrying Sildar out, the rest of the party is in here and just murders all these goblins. Um, and
yeah. With
that
with that, I found that Arlen was played very well for that point. Um,
sure,
he gave his word as a paladin, and him not taking part in that battle was, really important for him as a paladin. Um, I I think that Cunning did a great job with that, and him not helping was really big. It shows the level of character that he put into to Arlen.
yeah. I mean, he was very conflicted about it, even too. Like as a person. He didn't want to like leave the battle, and he probably just as a player wanted to participate in the combat. But he did play it out and filter and used his turns to basically get Sildar out of there, out of harm's way. This was kind of a tougher combat for you guys, but I eventually, because it was 3-on-7 or something like that, but you did manage to get through and completed the Cragmaw hideout and began to make your way back to Phandalin. You had a chance to talk to Sildar, and Sildar told you that he and Gundren were of course ambushed, and that Gundren had a map. And Gundren had a map to a place called the Wave Echo Cave, which is like this like magical cave. So Sildar knew, yeah. So Gundren had two other brothers. They found an entrance to Wave Echo Cave, and Wave Echo Cave is like this cave of legend where you could forge magical items and things like that. He also knew that they had taken Gundren to the Cragmaw Castle. Sildar believes that Clark sent the map and the dwarf to the chief of the Cragmaws at a place called Cragmaw Castle. Sildar didn't know where that was, so he can help you with that. And he wanted you to get to Phandalin because he was on his way to Phandalin also to investigate the his missing buddy Yarno Albrecht, who had been in Phandalin for a few months. So so you guys then headed down the Sword Coast, down the Tribor Trail, and made your way for the first time into Phandalin. And then, of course, we're going to get to Phandalin. It's going to be on fire. That we'll revisit that here in a minute. Real quick, because we're not, I'm just going to tell you because we can't. There's not going to be really a chance for you to go back and do this now because we are pretty much done. I mean, we can go, but we'll be going back to Phandalin, I'm sure, for supplies and things like that. But the large pieces of the story in Phandalin are now told, and you have a few I think you already cleaned up all the side quests and got all the rewards and stuff.
Yeah.
What am I looking for here? I just want to Phandalin location. So there was the supplies that were in in Clark's cave. That you guys didn't take. If they would have given you a small reward had you taken them into the Lion Shield Coster. I believe that somebody successfully identified who the supplies belonged to while you were in the cave, and that is a place that is in Phandalin. And you guys left the supplies there. You didn't take them with, but that would have been a small reward had you been there. You get to Phandalin and you meet all the crazy characters in Phandalin. This is sort of meant to be like a Wild West open world in Phandalin. You can kind of go and visit whoever you want to visit. You find out a few different things. One is that the town is overrun by these red cloaks, these red brand bandits, and they are like young people. They all believe in QAnon. They are conspiracy theorists, and they're just trying to make Phandalin great again. No, they're like terrorizing the people of Phandalin, and basically over the last few months, this has taken over. These red brands have taken over. Sildar quickly finds out that Yarno is nowhere to be found. Nobody knows anything about him. And a few things happen here, which is that you guys split the party.
Yeah. And
during that party splits, I as fuck is very nearly killed by some red brands. Basically, I think that's maybe the first time that she / Mini Bulba realized, like, we're not playing here.
Yeah.
And I've always said, like, if a character dies, the hand of God is not going to come down and resurrect them. Like, you're going to have to figure out how to handle this within the rules of the game. I will not go out of my way to kill you, but I also will not go out of my way to keep you alive. So I is nearly killed by the red brands. She's able to, I think, Thunder Wave, and that Thunder Wave caused a loud enough sound to where you guys were able to step in and help in the fight, and you do kill these 4 red brand bandits. And then I believe it is canon that you buried them in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, giant badger, I think, dug a
That's right.
hole and buried them right in the middle of the road.
That's right. I think while that was happening, you were visiting the Shrine of Luck, right?
Yeah,
What were your
yeah.
initial reactions to dealing? So there's a sister there, and you remember what she told you, and what she. You remember that interaction at all?
She was cute.
That's right.
Uh, and of course, my old man was, you know, but it was, she was there looking, or trying to get a book, and gave a little bit of information, said she needed some help. Um, Not sure if she had gotten beaten up.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was beaten up.
Yeah.
She looked roughed
Um,
up.
but yeah, an old man can never resist helping a young girl in need.
Sure.
So, um, yeah,
Yeah. So I think that she had given you the side quest for Agatha, the banshee,
yeah.
because she said you could go to this banshee, make a offering of a gift, and um, if she accepted the gift, then she would basically answer one question for you, and she wanted to know about this spell book, which you all thought had a hilarious name, Bojangles spell book, which was like nonstop laughter about Bojangles spell book.
it's
Um,
it's a cookbook about biscuits and chicken.
is Bojangles a restaurant?
Bojangles.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm trying to think of some of the other crazy characters you met in here. Of course, the town master, who was a blustering idiot, basically, a fat blustering idiot who seemed to think that the Red Brands were like no big deal. And I think that part of the reason that I confronted the Red Brands is because the town master was like, "Well, I have no problem with it. They're just young kids getting up to what kids will be kids type thing." And I was like, "Oh, okay, no big deal." And then was almost murdered by them in the street. Um, you met Barthen's Provisions. Barthen was very concerned about Gundren, and you guys still, where we are now, have still not rescued Gundren Rockseeker after all of these months. He's still poor Gundren. He's just been held for. Maybe he's dead. You don't even know. You bought some stuff at Barthen's. You visited Alderley Farm. At the Alderley Farm is where I bought all of her halfling leaf. You visited the Ettermath Orchard. You basically went and ran a quick lap around everything here. And finally, everybody had said that the Red Brands hang out at the Sleeping Giant, and that's where ultimately like I was accosted, was out in front of the Sleeping Giant. Like I walks in, the first thing she does is go to where the enemy is, and then is rude, and then starts a fight. Um,
Yeah.
Walk me through, Vlor, what you remember about you guys entering the Sleeping Giant.
Um, so we walked in, and there was a barkeep, and we tried to ask some questions. She was pretty rude, didn't care for us, was not necessarily a friend to the Red Brand, but more not against them. And so she wouldn't give us any information. So I punched her in the face.
Knocked her unconscious like right away, and so then we kind of stopped the session. Not stopped the session, but we had a pretty detailed conversation at this point about alignments. Because this is where we did look at your character sheet, and we did find out that Azrael was a good aligned character, and we were like, I don't know if a good aligned character is going to walk into an establishment and punch somebody in the face that is a non-combatant.
Yeah.
So I remember we talked about that quite a bit, and Cunning Fox had some interesting things to say, and I and Mini Bulba had some many interesting things to say. And let me read you. This is all of the text for the Sleeping Giant. This is it. So everything else about the Sleeping Giant was off the top of your friendly neighborhood DM Fishsuit's head. This rundown tap house has a dirty, dangerous watering hole at the end of Fandolin's main street. It is frequented by Red Brand thugs and operated by a surly female dwarf named Grista. If The characters choose to visit this place run the Red Brand Ruffians encounter, which is the encounter that you guys had when I was almost killed. That is it. That is all the text about the Sleeping Giant. So yeah, you guys knocked her out, and we're kind of like, what do we do? Do we burn down there was even some thoughts like, do we burn this place down? What how do we do? You take some liquor. I know everybody got a few bottles of liquor here. And then ultimately, I think you just took her to her house, because her house is kind of in behind there. I can't remember. You might have just tied her up and left her in the back room.
Yeah.
And then started your march to where you had basically learned that the Red Brands had set up shop. I forgot the most important part here. Your little buddy. Remember your little buddy? Remember your little halfling buddy, Vlor? So, well, I think while you were visiting the Alderleaf farm, let me make sure I get the name right. I think it was Pip?
Fish Suit Jr.?
It's Fish Suit Jr. How could I have forgotten? Let's find Alderleaf Farm on here.
I think that was Gamer Bardowin's little buddy.
Oh, it's Carp. Yeah, so Caroline Alderleaf, who talks like this. I still remember how Caroline talks like this. Her son said that he saw some big, ugly bandits when he was out in the forest near the Tressendar Manor. And so you guys convince Carp to come show you where that is. Mm-hmm. You also, I believe, Gamer Bardowin arms Carp, like a 7-year-old child, with a bow. No arrows, just a bow, and he is leading the way through the forest. And you come across the secret entrance to this underground cavern, and Carp, all the while, Gamer Bardowin is like, "You're a hero. You're gonna be an adventurer. You're a hero." And the rest of the party is like, "What the fuck are you doing? This is a child." As soon as he sees the Red Brand, he's like, "Get him! Charge!" And he charges into combat against this Red Brand, and he's just immediately put down, basically, one shot. You guys wipe the floor with this guy pretty quick. This guy's no match for you adventurers, but and this guy is. But yeah, so this kid Carp gets freaking decimated. Gamer Heroine feels terrible about this. But you guys are also like, "Now don't tell your mommy." And I remember very specifically this part where I was like, "All right, you just can't tell anybody, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I won't tell anybody except for my mom." And then no, you can't tell anybody. "Okay, I'll only tell Pip." No, you can't. So eventually, yeah, you get this guy to head out, and you find the entrance to the Red Brand hideout, which we'll take a look at now. Another great map here, another really great map. So you came in. I'll try to move everybody down here. Let's get Arlen down here. So you came in here, and immediately I and Gamer Bardowin are hear silent messages or messages in their head, and they're of course hearing this Nothic that is hiding here, and we find out some information about I. The Nothic tells I that he knows that she's looking for the mushroom of power. And also we find out some interesting background story on Gamer Bardowin, which is that as a child, the Nothic says you could have saved her, you could have saved your sister. And we see a flashback of Gamer Bardowin's sister as they were children falling to her death off of a cliff, which will come back in the future here. The Nothic, let me read some stuff about the Nothic here, because this is stuff also that you don't know, Vlor.
Okay.
Expectations for this dungeon as you were coming in here. You didn't really know. You guys hadn't really done a lot of recon. You didn't really know a whole ton of stuff to expect.
I was just hoping not to die, because by this point I think I've gone unconscious and dying a couple of times. So I was just hoping not to die.
Yeah, we again. You're still and now at this point. You guys are level 2, and you guys are still trying to figure out like everybody's role. And at this point, you have like a very traditional party too. It's you have DPS and you have a tank. You have sort of a utility character in Gamer Bardowin, and then a spellcaster slash healer in I. So you come in here. The Nothic is willing to make a deal with you. He just wants you to basically feed him. He's been living in this crevasse, and the red brands are just plying him with meat and stuff in order to like guard the entrance. But he's like, he holds no particular allegiance to these guys, and he's willing to make a trade if he wants. Let me show you. Let me show you his stat block. We'll take a look at his stat block here real quick. Kind of a neat. He's kind of a neat dude. Wasn't too much of a challenge for you guys. He does get a couple attacks. I think this is my first enemy with 2 attacks that I was able to play. He also has this Rotting Gaze. I believe that the con save was made against Rotting Gaze. And of course, I was able to do the Weird Insight in order to get my message into your players' heads. That's how we got some of that cool backstory. He has a ton of HP for you guys, 45 HP. I think this is the highest HP creature that you've faced so far. And I think that he dragged you down into the crevasse at some point. And you guys were kind of fighting down there. And it was a little squirrely, but you managed to make it out.
I think the bridge broke.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right. So the bridge, the bridges are made of wooden planks and have no rails. Once a creature weighing more than 50 pounds moves across it, it collapses. And you guys had just kind of got in here. That's right. Yeah, Mini Bulba just remembered as well. Thank you guys. This is why I love doing this, because it's little stuff like this that I forget. Not that that's like critically important, but the bridge broke and you guys fell in this crevasse. Take care of the Nothic. No big deal. He's dead. And then there was a decision to what we're going to do next. Of course, we have the... oh, that's right. There was a... That's right. Yeah, so that's a great time to bring up, Mini Bulba, that during this campaign that we live stream, the audience members can interact with the stream by using bits and subs and gifting subscriptions. And there's also a incentive for a donation, $10 or 1,000 bits or more, to do a wild magic roll. And so somebody did a wild magic roll here, and Gamer Bardowin got spider climb. So it was Gamer Bardowin climbing on the ceiling. Oh, what a feeling when your bard is on the ceiling, firing down. So that's cool. I did forget that as well. This is the first wild magic roll in our campaign, but not the last, as we'll soon find out. Yeah, so talk me through the next sequence as you remember it here, Vlor, because you guys walked down this stairway, and probably, I want to say, faced the most difficult combat, probably the squirreliest combat of the game. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I believe there was some loud noises going on in the room.
Yeah, you look through the keyhole, and it kind of looked like these bugbears might be fucking a goblin. You weren't quite sure.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't really remember how that went down. I know we had talked about like putting on the red cloaks and trying to disguise ourselves.
That's right. So you guys had a bunch of red cloaks, and you were like, and I think some of your party was like, maybe they'll think that we're red cloaks. And so, as I remember it, you walked up here, knocked on the door. As soon as the guy opened the door, you punched him in the face.
Yeah, that was a theme of Azrael for a little while.
Punched him in the face. So this was a combat where your paladin was like, where Arlen was like, I nearly left the 3 of you to die because it was so close. I think this is you guys might not know it, but this is probably the closest we came to a TPK. You guys were fighting three bugbears. I, I think that you were knocked unconscious like almost right away, and you were unconscious. You were one death save away. Like we were. It was all very close.
Yeah.
There. So let me read this part to you. The bugbears avoid the human members of the Red Brands. If the characters are wearing scarlet cloaks taken from elsewhere, the bugbears assume they serve Yarno. Clever characters might even persuade the bugbears to help deal with traitors or imposters elsewhere in the dungeon. If you don't think the players are doing a great job role-playing the deception, you can have the character who's doing most of the talking make a DC 15 deception check. I was going to make that a gimme if you were wearing the cloaks. Then you punched the guy in the face and we forced a combat. At the end of this very brutal combat, I remember that Droop walked out. This goblin walked out. You didn't know him as Droop at the time, but this goblin walked out. And that was the end of this episode, this session. And I remember everybody was like, "Oh my god, what's that?" Like, no way, we can't, because everybody's at like 1 HP at this point. You know what I mean? Like one goblin might have like TPK'd you at that point. So we start the next session up, and we find out that this goblin is Droop. He's very cowed to you. He will help you in whatever way possible. And Droop basically becomes a member of the party played by me. You arm him. You lightly arm him. I don't think anybody fully trusts him yet, but he does seem like he wants to help. He's kind of telling you about the map a little bit. Hey, Mini Bulb, I see you out there in chat. You want to hop into Discord call real quick? No, I guess I can't do it. I wouldn't be able to add you in. Never mind. I thought it'd be fun to add you in to talk to about this next spot, because this was an I as fuck special. But I gets in here. There's 4 Red Brands sitting around here gambling and drinking, and I's wearing the cloak. She rolls like 3 amazing checks in a row, I believe, to convince the Red Brands that she's a Red Brand as well. Walks over here to get them ale, crumbles the mushroom up into the ale with a sleight of hand check, and then feeds them gives them the beer, and they all pass out. So you guys just completely avoided this combat altogether with these 4 Red Brands passed out. You tie them all up. Yeah, at the time you didn't know what the mushroom did. It could have been like super strength or something. You have no idea. So you get through there. Then you make your way up. Everybody makes their way up into here. Droop is super scared because he knows that the wizard Glassstaff, the leader of this, he's right here. His quarters is here. While you're in this room, there's a rat in here, and I remember specifically that nobody could fucking hit the rat. Like everybody was missing the rat's AC. The rat turned out to be a familiar of the wizard, and so once you get into the wizard's room here, he's gone. You rifle through here, you find a bunch of his stuff. You see that there's a secret exit here that he took. So you get some good loot in here. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. You get into this room. You have a brief combat with some skeletons. No big deal. These guys go down fairly simply. And then you get into this room where a family has been. So part of the reason that you're here as well, as I should have mentioned, is that there was... Who was it that got... Somebody got murdered, right, Vlor? Like...
Yeah, the father, the wood carver, or the carpenter. And so it was just the wife and the kid, and they ended up getting kidnapped.
That's right. So that's like part of the reason you guys were here too, was because of this.
I think that was part of the reason why that whole punch the bugbear in the face.
Because your character has this idea like these are evil, like there's innocent people being held here.
Yeah, and the fact that they killed this man, took him away from his family, kind of brought back those feels of what happened with Azrael, and he was not having it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, like they not only killed the guy, but then they took his family and were like basically selling them into slavery.
Yeah.
These red brands in here heard the fighting, and they kind of ambushed you as you came through the door. But I don't think that this combat was exceptionally difficult. While you were in here, you rescued these dudes. Actually, you couldn't rescue these dudes; they were still in the cages, and you couldn't figure out you couldn't pick the lock. Nobody had a way to pick the lock. Droop didn't know where the key was. So you had to leave them there. You left them some food or whatever, and you were like, "We'll be back. Don't worry." While you were in here, or maybe like after you were done, though, the mother gave you a quest from a place called Thunder Tree, which you
Yep.
had heard about, and that like you have a bunch of side quests at this point now, but that one is going to come into play like really importantly later on, where she said that there was a special gem, a valuable gem in a place called Thunder Tree, and this is the second time you've heard Thunder Tree. I believe also at this point one of the Red Brand ruffians like gave up and you let him go. You remember that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was probably one of the guys that was holding them prisoner.
Yeah, it was one of those guys in there, and you let him go, and you were like, "Get out of here! Never hurt anybody again," or whatever. Like I don't know. There was like lots of intimidation. Basically, you're just like, "I don't feel like murdering another person today. Don't make
I
us
think that
kill you."
I think that was Arlen who was like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
At that point, I know that Azrael is not letting anyone go.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely wasn't you. Through this hallway, there was a little trap. No big deal. I think that somebody might have fallen in, but it wasn't a big deal. And you get out into this main room. The guy who you let go is dead at the bottom of this stairs, clearly having been killed. And now you face your boss fight, Glassstaff. You knew this guy was a wizard going in here, Vlor. Any expectations or thoughts for this fight?
Not really. At this point, you know, with being a monk, I was hoping that maybe I'd get some movement in there with that extra speed to maybe do some extra damage.
Hey,
Trying to
what's going
make
on, Scoots? Scoots, we're just recapping all the stuff we've done in Lost Mine of Phandelver so far, and we're like 1/8 of the way through. So this is going to be an 8-hour long podcast. That's why I'm trying to handwave some of this stuff. Here's this fight as I remember it. Arlen walked up to Glassstaff and killed him in a single shot.
Yeah.
I remember very specifically. Glassstaff got like basically nothing off. I think he tried to mind control Gamer Barterwin, missed. I was down here, I think, as a wolf. Droop was up here firing crossbow bolts down, and Droop ended up getting like several confirmed kills in this fight, which started the legend of Droop. This fight never seemed like it was an issue for you guys at all. Basically, Arlen walked up to Glassstaff and single shot, like one shot of the boss. So everybody who says that I make these combats too hard, just look back on this one where you one shot of the boss. 22 HP, Glassstaff. He has a pretty cool glass staff, as you might have guessed. You guys spend some time looking around this whole dungeon. You go back and actually get some stuff, get some extra treasure that you'd missed the first time around. And finally, you're able to find the keys, let these guys out, and you leave the Red Brand hideout. But, important thing to remember, so we do have these chat incentives. So in the meantime, our buddy Relin had rolled a wild magic roll that basically gave all of our characters a 5% chance to die as the sun came up. So as they leave the Red Brand hideout, the sun is coming up. And I makes her roll, and Azrael makes his roll, and Gamer Barterman makes her roll, and even Droop makes his roll. But Arlen Doran rolls a natural 3 on a D100 and permanently died on the way out. The first of Cunning Fox's characters to perish in such a way. So as we pick up in the next also on your way out, the reason that the Tressendar Manor is on fire here is that Azrael sets the manor on fire as you leave. I believe that you also forgot that there were people in there, so the unconscious Red Brands, so we also set 4 unconscious Red Brands on fire.
So I'm pretty sure that I did that discreetly so that no other people would know.
Everybody knew it was you.
Well, I mean, I feel like somebody knew that we had killed the main guy, and they tried to burn down the hideout to trap us in there. That's the story I'm trying
That's
to.
that's the narrative you're trying to get to put forth.
Yeah.
We every time we've gone back to Phandalin, I have not erased the fire. So this Chessendar Manor has been on fire for actually months. So we like to joke that Tressendar Manor is like filled with tires. It's just filled with like rubber and tires and garbage, and it's just been burning and smoldering for months. You get out of there with Arlen's body now, and as we begin the next session, we see that our buddy Cunning Fox has now taken over everybody's fan favorite character, Droop. And so Droop is not just a level 1 goblin anymore. Now Droop is a rogue. So he rolled him up as an actual character, and Droop has some newfound powers. And Cunning Fox continues to play Droop to this day. So Droop is now this is a halfling Droop I'm showing you here, but you'll see that it's not always been the case. So Droop is a goblin that's now part of your party. You had heard some talk about a druid. You guys spent some time at the end of that session where everybody was just had their mouth wide open. You remember anything that you guys were talking about, Vlor? Because a lot of times I'm ending out the stream and you guys are kind of chit-chatting about what just happened in the sesh.
Yeah, everybody was stunned.
Yeah.
I don't think that there was a whole lot of talking going on. I mean, we talked a little bit, but everybody was really stunned that that just happened. We survived only to have him die right in front of us, like for no reason.
Right. Yeah. You had no idea, and so I wrote a little cutscene that showed this drow elf casting some sort of a spell from far away. You can see his like life force leaping from him in order to cast this spell, and that's what ultimately had killed Arlen. That's how we found out the next. I mean, you guys as players don't know this, but the as player characters don't know this, but the players know that this is what happened to Arlen. But you had heard a pray tell of a druid in this town, Thunder Tree, and so you were like, well, if this druid's a high level enough, we could get him to cast Resurrection on Arlen, and we could get Arlen back, and then Droop can go on his merry way, and we'll have our paladin back. Sister Gorelli at the Shrine of Luck casts Gentle Repose on Arlen and agrees to keep his body there in gentle repose for a few days. And you guys head out on the next session to what I assume is going to be Thunder Tree. But what actually ends up being several sessions where the players clean up every side quest that is available in the Lost Mine of Phandelver. So just real quickly, because these are really just to give you guys some additional flavor for the areas. You guys head to Old Owl Well. There's a necromancer there. He's got a bunch of zombos going. You guys get into a combat there, and then he comes out, and you guys parlay with him, where he's like, well, for the first thing you did was go to Agatha. We'll clear up this though first. He's like, there's some orcs at Wyvern Tor, it's a little south of here. They've been raiding this camp. I'm just looking for some information here. As long as people leave me alone, I'll leave them alone. I'm not going to attack anybody, but I just am doing some research here, and I need to be left alone by the orcs. So you had already had a side quest to deal with the orcs, so you're like, 2 birds, 1 stone, no problem. We're going to go down here and deal with these orcs. Pretty tough fight. Let me see if I have the...
I didn't understand that.
What? I didn't say anything. Bixby's like, oh no, this is the goblin tank. So okay, okay, I still have the goblin tank map. I just kind of delete some of the old maps, but you fought a bunch of orcs. That was a pretty squirrely fight. There was quite a few orcs there, as I remember. Deal with that side quest. Deal with the necromancer. Go to Agatha's lair. In order to answer the question about the priestess. Tell me, you have some thoughts about Agatha. tell me what you think, and then I'll be able to confirm slash deny. First of all, are you still interested in going back there? Because you've been a little interested in going back there.
Um, at this point, with having with the stuff that's happened after, most recently, I don't think that it really matters as much. But I know at the beginning it was more trying to find information, um, rather than anything else. And we did get information on what we were looking for originally with that quest, but our main quest we weren't able to get any information on that. So it kind of felt a little like we wasted a good opportunity. But no, I don't think going
Right,
back.
because basically she was like, "I will answer one question for you," and Gamer Bardowin asked the question that you were basically sent out for the quest for, but Agatha would have told you whatever you wanted to know.
Yeah.
She would have told you the where Wave Echo Cave is if that's what you wanted to know. So, yeah, I agree. And there's some stuff that I'm like hesitating to tell you because you could still interact, but I am gonna talk about this because I would hate for anybody to feel like, oh, we really missed out on something there. So let me tell you. After you give her the comb that Sister Grelle gives you, she says the ghostly figure smiles in cold amusement. Very well. I know that you seek many things. Ask me one question. I will give you one answer. Um, and Gamer Bardowin asked immediately about the spellbook. She told her where the spellbook was. The characters might instead choose to ask Agatha about something else. For example, the location of Cragmaw Castle, the location of Wave Echo Cave, the identity of the Black Spider, or Hamun Kost's question about Old Owl Well. Agatha is well informed and capable diviner, so she can answer almost any single question pertaining to the adventure that the characters think to ask. However, the Banshee answers only one question, so the characters should choose it carefully. Let me tell you something else about this as well. Is that where is it? This is an interesting part, Vlor. You'll probably find this interesting. If the characters are rude, disrespectful, or threatening, Agatha scowls and disappears. She does not attack them, nor does she ever return if the characters call out
Oh
to her.
wow.
So you have one chance to talk to this Banshee like one-on-one, and if you fuck that chance up, you never get to interact with this thing again, and that whole side quest is gone.
Wow.
So you sent in a great character in Gamer Bardowin who was never going to be rude to her, and ended up asking the question. I thought you guys would find that really interesting, because when I, as a player, went into this hut for the first time, I was rude, and my DM, thankfully, did not play it as written and allowed us to sort of like calm the situation down. But I walked in there and I was very rude,
Wow.
to her. So yeah, that's what Agatha is. You found out about Bo Gentle's spell book. So you kind of just went through here, did all this side quests, and also while you helped out the necromancer Hamun Kost, he told you where Cragmaw Castle was. Did all these side quests. Tell us first. Can we do an in memoriam of both Arlen Doran and an in memoriam of Elmo One? Tell us what happened with Elmo. First of all, tell us who Elmo is, Vlor, and tell us what happened, and I'll tell you how I remember it.
So Elmo was a great steed. He was a valiant, well-loved member of our party. I think we paid a good bit of money for him as
you
well.
Purchased him in Phandalin.
Yeah, he will be loved, and missed greatly. But he just happened to be, out and about
Forgotten, left for dead.
I wouldn't say that. Some might say that.
Some might say that.
But he had a chance to live.
That's right.
And I think somebody who will not be named by me killed him.
Don't worry, I'll name that person.
Okay.
So they had purchased this horse and cart in Phandalin, and they had taken the horse and cart with them up the Tribor Trail, and basically they did never mentioned it again. It was like it was probably like 2 sessions since the last time they'd mentioned this cart and horse. And I was like, where is the cart and horse during all of this? And everybody was like, So I was like, well, are you leaving the cart on the trail? Are you taking it with you into these dangerous like mountains and stuff? And they're like, no, we're tying him up in safe place. And I was like, I don't know. You guys have been off the trail for a couple of days now. Like, especially after the orc fight, they got a long rest. And I was like, all right, here's the deal. You guys are going to get back out to the trail. Gamer Bardwin, you're going to roll a d6. If you roll a natural 1 on the d6, your horse is dead. If you roll anything else, he's fine. And of course, what does she do? Great for the story. She rolls a 1, and the horse is dead. So that now they have this thing. So then the druid eye turns into a horse, but realizes you can only turn into a horse for like an hour. So they get like an hour down the trail. There is like a lengthy discussion about how they're going to get this fucking cart back to Phandalin. I think eventually they just abandon the cart. And go back into Phandalin, buy another cart. And I made him buy another cart and a horse. Finally, back in Phandalin, they buy another cart and a horse. They get Arlen's body. Sister Goreli casts Gentle Repose one last time, and then they finally head up to something that I had looked forward to since the very start of this adventure, which is the ruins of Thunder Tree. So I know going into Thunder Tree that the characters are about to face down a young green dragon. I think anybody who has this adventure and is looking at this adventure and reads through knows that, or like really looks forward to this fight. This is a really fun combat, really fun place, and we made it even more fun just by the wackiness of kind of how this all went down. Pretty standard stuff. We get in here. There's some zombies. Oh, there's a big sign out in front of here. And remember, we're looking for the druid Redoth.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for Redoth the druid to help resurrect Arlen. There's some sign out front. Plant and zombie creatures. Turn back now. Don't come in here. You guys are like, whatever, nerds. We got this.
I thought it said
Danger.
Play the game Plants versus Zombies.
Danger. Plant monsters and zombies. Turn back now. So I don't know how much of you're aware of this vlor, or the rest of our players, or everybody who watched these, but I think that let me just look. Let me just look, because I'm fairly sure that as written, Redoth is like a level 3 druid.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, I mean, Redoth has an AC of 11. As written, Redoth has an AC of 11 and 27 hit points. No, he's a 4th level spellcaster. Huh. But for our campaign, I made Redoth a 9th level druid so that he would have resurrection, which is what you guys wanted to do. But I didn't make it as easy as the campaign wanted it to be. So you get in here, you fight some plants, you fight some zombies right away. You're like, well, that was as advertised. You find the cottage where Redoth was staying, but there's no Redoth there. Now, as written, Redoth is just chilling in there. You find him right away. But you find his cottage in my story, and he's not there. But you do find my favorite item from the entire campaign so far. You do find Redoth's, all of his pack and his stuff, along with his Scooby-Doo sleeping bag, which I believe is now in the possession of I as fuck. The Scooby-Doo sleeping bag, the +1 Scooby-Doo sleeping bag. Honestly, my favorite part of the campaign, favorite item of the campaign. Yeah, so you find his stuff there. Don't know where he is. You leave a note that is like, we broke into your house. I don't know what the note said. Gamer Barter would put up a note that was like, we broke into your house, sorry. Fight a couple of spiders, no big deal. These guys are fairly easy. And then you make your way up to this tower, this crumbling tower up at the top. Now there was some portents of doom out here that I think were kind of like largely ignored by the party.
And I think it's important to note that at this time, we've used up a lot of our abilities.
Yeah, you'd had 4 fights, right? Ash zombies, double twig blights, giant spiders. So
mm,
you're walking in here with after having participated in 4 combats.
yeah.
See these 2 giant dead spiders out here, and you're like, oh, what's those? That's great. All those spiders are dead. And they look like they were like poisoned. They have like green goop on them. They're poisoned. Walk into the tower. Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say we were totally oblivious.
Yeah, completely. Like, so these dead giant spiders out here are really meant to say like, players, please be careful. There's something bad in here. So as written, these spiders. Here, I'll even read this to you because it's. I think that the wizards did a great job with this. The corpses of 2 hideous giant spiders are sprawled near the edge of the pathway, apparently dragged there. Their bloated bodies are puckered and blistered and appear to have been mauled by a large animal. A young green dragon named Venomfang has recently claimed the tower, having passed over Thundertree while searching for Neverwinter Wood for a suitable lair. The giant spider corpses are the former residents of the tower, killed by the dragon after it tore its way through the roof. Since then, Venomfang has been laying low. So you guys walk in here, and you see, you walk into the main room, and then in here, the dragon is perched up above where you can't see him, but you do see Redoth's body, like lying amongst a hoard of treasure. And at this point, everybody's alarm bells start going off, like, hoard of treasure. Oh no, what have we done?
Yeah.
Gamer Bardwin gets in here, starts to talk to the dragon. The dragon's not very interested at all. And then I cheat. I blatantly cheat at the game. Because I was holding an action, but actually I held a full round action, which I am not allowed to do in 5e. I did run it back, and really, like, the action that I did really wouldn't have changed too much of how this would have played out. I think you might have been about 15 feet from where you ended up being knocked unconscious, from where you were actually knocked unconscious in our play. But in any case, the dragon swooped down, knocked you unconscious as you try to grab Redoth's body, and is basically like, I'm going to murder this guy. What the hell are you guys doing here? Gamer Bardwin has a pretty decent deception. And what happened next I can only describe as Yakety Sax. So Yakety Sax starts playing because the Gamer Bardwin promises... Remember way back when we were talking about the Red Brand hideout? The valuable amulets. Gamer Bardwin promises the dragon that there's a valuable amulet here in Thundertree, and she's going to give it to him. And Gamer Bardwin's like, well, give us back our friend. And he's like, I am going to murder your friend unless you give me that fucking amulet. So why don't you get the hell out of here and give me the amulet? You were unconscious and dying, so we stayed in combat rounds while you made your death saves. And I let everybody move out and start moving into Thundertree, because at this point you had no idea where the amulet was. Mm-hmm. You ended up, with the help of chat, saving on your death throws there. And you told me later, I think, that you said you're like, I thought I was dead.
Yeah. There was, at that point, I had failed 2 saves, and was just about dead. If I would have failed that last save, it would have been permadeath for the old man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was close. It was definitely close. Chat came through. I think you got like a plus 12 or something on your last death save from chat incentives.
Yeah, and I think it was still, I don't know, it was something, I thought it was pretty close, where I could have still failed.
Oh, yeah. I know. I think you needed to roll anything but a natural 1, 2, or 3. A 1, 2, or 3 would have been permadeath there on your last death save. I think you were 2 passes, 2 fails. So that's why you were in combat rounds for so long. I turns into a horse. Gamer Bardwin mounts I as horse, and they start making this absolutely wild dash through Thundertree to try to find this amulet. In doing so, they aggro, absolutely everything in this town. there are 4 simultaneous combats happening while the characters are still going through Phandalin to try to find, or going through Thunder Tree to try to find this amulet. Um, Basically, they are just disengaging from combats and running to new buildings trying to find where this stuff is. Finally, I believe our Cunning Fox was ill, and so our buddy Jackson stepped in to play Droop, and Droop had an amazing idea to go back and do another perception check on some place that he'd already had a low perception, and finds the amulet, rushes it up to the dragon. The dragon then leaves Azrael's body and flies away, and you don't know what happened to him. Droop is able to save Azrael, give him a potion of healing, and bring him back from unconscious. And meanwhile, down here, Gamer Bardwin and I are now fighting the entire town of Thunder Tree, which is now aggro. There are zombies, there are cultists. They are all fighting down here. And I is in here just constantly like thunder waving Gamer Bardwin. And she's saving, so she's not getting pushed away, but she's also still taking damage. Gamer Bardwin is very low on health. She's surrounded by 3 cultists and 2 zombies, and everybody's attacking her, and everybody's attacking one another when Venom Fang flies in and unleashes his breath attack on this whole area. Kills the cultists, kills the zombies. I was so low on health. I is hiding in this house, like looking through the window, and as I looks out, she sees Venom Fang pick up Gamer Bardwin and fly away. And we ended the session there.
Yeah, I think that was what was really interesting about that is someone convinced the dragon that the cultists
That's right.
were trying to betray him.
That's right.
I think that could be Droop.
Yep, Droop had a natural 20 on a deception check to convince Venom Fang that the cultists that were down in this southeastern corner of Thunder Tree were plotting against him.
Yeah, we were trying to get him the amulet, and they were trying to stop us. I think is the way that it was put, so that the dragon would try and help.
Yeah, so this might be especially interesting to you guys. A group calling itself the Cult of the Dragon seeks to forge alliances with the powerful dragons of the Sword Coast. Toward that end, 4 cultists recently tracked down a green dragon to Thunder Tree and are waiting for the right moment to approach the dragon and broker an alliance. They have been spying on the dragon from afar, trying to gauge its demeanor and its needs. So these guys are actually not only not against the dragon, but they were here to be like, "We love you, dragon. Please let us be your cult." Yeah, pretty dramatic moment. Venom Fang picks up Gamer Bardwin and flies away. Next session, you bring Reedoth back from the dead, and he is like, "Have you seen a halfling around here?" And you're like, "Well, we saw a halfling get carried away by the dragon." It's like, no, never mind. And long story short, you end up finding Reedoth's companion, Fella. So first introduction of Fella here in Thunder Tree. Fella was tied up by the cult, and you're able to rescue. Fella, and Fella, unlike also played by Gamer Heroine, I should say. Unlike Gamer Bardwin, is rather headstrong. So she's the anti-Gamer Bardwin. She's like short, not only in stature but in demeanor. She's a little gruff, and she also has some like weird physical tics and things like that. She's a very interesting character. And she's a ranger, by the way. Fella's a ranger.
Fella Longways.
It's Fella Longways. That's her full name. So you guys are unsure of where the dragon is at this point. Actually, I think somebody finally spots the dragon back up on the tower. You guys, I think probably at this point had to have a long rest. Like, I don't think anybody had anything left in the tank, so I'm pretty sure that you went to Reedoth's place and got a long rest.
I think when the dragon left, I kind of rummaged through the golden treasure a little bit,
Oh, that's right. And
to
you took an.
if I could find anything useful.
And what did you? What did you end up taking? Do you remember? There were some potions.
Um, Potions, and I think there was a scroll or two that
That's
we
right.
couldn't even use.
Yeah, I think that one of the more disappointing parts of 5e is that you can't use a scroll if it's not in your like if you can't if your character can never cast a fireball, then you can't use a scroll of fireball. I think that's kind of lame. And the only reason I haven't really changed that as a homebrew consideration is that I'm afraid that the reason they do that is because of a balancing issues. So I would hate to be like, yeah, you can cast whatever scroll you want, and then like it just fucks the rest of the sessions up because it's so overpowered.
Yeah,
But it is pretty lame when you find a cool scroll and it doesn't do anything, or you can't do it. Yeah, you found a scroll of Misty Step and a scroll of Lightning Bolt. Um, there was also yeah, and just like a bunch of money and stuff. So you get a long rest in here, and then it's time to fight the dragon. You're pretty sure that we got to go confront the dragon because we have to save Gamer Bardoin. And so Redoth is very much like, I can offer some healing, but you please plan this fight, because at this point, like, just as a DM, sometimes it's frustrating when everybody runs in and then you're like, well, this fight is hard. I'm like, well, yeah, because you didn't plan this at all. Like, you just ran in.
you
Um,
know, the thing about it is, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you plan, it almost never happens that way.
no, you're absolutely right. I guess the point that I was trying to make
Yeah,
through the mouthpiece of Redoth was like, think about this combat before we go into it. Think about
I'm
what
like,
you'd like your action to be. Think about how you envision it going, and then try to, obviously it's not going to work out exactly like that because it never does.
yeah,
But at least just don't rush in and then start planning. Plan out how you want this to happen. And also, I think that this is probably my favorite combat of the entire campaign so far. Was the tower top fight against Venom Fang. So as you get up here, you guys, poor Droop. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Droop. Is Fella here? I think Fella's got to be here somewhere, right? Yeah, she's hiding off to the side. There's Fella, by the way, a 3rd level ranger. So you get up here, Venom Fang is chilling. You can see Gamer Bardoin unconscious behind him. Redoth, I believe, comes up the stairs with Fella. Tell me if I'm getting any of this wrong, Vlor. Droop stealths up the stairs. I is a spider and climbs
yeah,
up the wall. You flew?
yeah. I flew up the opposite side.
Yeah, you had a potion of flying. You flew up the side. I as a spider here. And you guys see Venom Fang. So then it's like, okay, now we have an idea of, like, we went into the combat with some plans, and now we see the actual battlefield, and so we get to figure out how to fight this. Droop gets up here, and he stealths, I think, to about right here, and just had a real... I was making him stealth about every 10 feet, because he's walking towards something that's like, would be able to clearly see him, even though it was sleeping. Fails a stealth roll right there. Combat begins. Let me back up a little bit so you can see this. This is a map specifically meant for this battle, but it's not part of the adventure path. Whoever made this map, they should absolutely just hire him to put this map in. Can you, like, just looking at this real quick, Floor, and then looking back at the Thunder Tree map, can you imagine how much different the fight would have been from this map that we're looking at to the actual place in Thunder Tree where the dragon is? Like,
Yeah, there's no way you could have done a battle on that small of an area.
yeah, it just like doesn't make any sense to have like a teeny tiny battle with this massive dragon and you're in like a 10 by 10 room. The dragon himself is 10 by 10. So I'm happy we were able to find this map. And sometimes when we have these combats now as a more experienced DM, when I see a really cramped combat like that, I'm going to be looking to pull that out onto a separate battle map and we're gonna have this combat here instead
Yeah.
of on that little cramped space. Um, this fight goes okay, I would say. It's not the best, it's not the worst. Fella is over here shooting arrows. In, shoot the arrow out. In, shoot the arrow out. And we first see for the first time how powerful Fella is. We're not going to talk about the side quest sessions here on this stream because it was just like a fun aside, and I don't think we need to get into the lore of it too much. But we did get an extended look at Fella during our side quest sessions, and Fella's an extremely powerful character. Rangers in 5e are just very powerful, but Gamer Heroine built her really well, and so she's just stepping up here and firing arrows. Azrael is I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, Vlor, but I'm gonna say cautious during this fight.
Yeah. Yeah. He's after after that almost dying, it really took its toll. He is being very cautious at this point, trying not to die. Um, he realized that he didn't want to die.
Yeah, like so, all the brushes with death, right?
Yeah.
And seeing Arlen now dead has changed this character definitely. I just gave you access to Venom Fang's stat block here, Vlor, if you want to take a look at him. He's got 3 attacks, 1 bite, 2 claws, +7 on all those attacks. The bite is 2d10 +4. The claws 2d6 +4. And then, of course, that poison breath, which I was able to use once during this combat. This is a CR8 creature. At this point, I believe you guys are level 3. So a CR8 creature for 4 level 3 characters, and then like a really poorly built level 9 druid. I say poorly built because really all Readoff has is like heals. I put him in there to be your heal guy. Like, he's not a combat druid, basically. He has resurrection like you guys wanted, and he has a couple of heal spells. He has some buffs and things like that. But I didn't want to have him, because if this is a 9th level character, then this combat's like over in 4 minutes, because Readoff's so OP, he's just gonna like one-shot the dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was very fair to keep him out of it mostly, and just to provide a little bit of healing as it was needed. The other thing was he was our guy. He was the guy that was supposed to resurrect Arlen.
Right. So
We don't
imagine
want
Readoff
him.
dies during that fight. It's like, oh god, fuck. So yeah, Venom Fang has 136 HP. It's got an 18 AC. That's pretty standard for most dragons in 5e. It just was kind of tired of all the deceptions, and it basically at this point Venom Fang couldn't separate truth from fiction. It had been lied to a couple of times. It had seen through a few lies, and it was just done with you guys. It was going to not interested in talking anymore. It was just gonna fight you.
Yeah.
Venom Fang gets real low, and then you guys put yourself into a nice little line here. Really, I think it was something like this, where Venom Fang is up here, and Venom Fang used its poison breath weapon. It hits for 12d6, and for the second time in this campaign, one of Cunning Fox's characters died. Droop was the unfortunately saved a DC 14 Constitution saving throw for half damage. And Venom Fang hit for 12d6, and Droop was at, like, I want to say 2 to 3 HP at this point, barely standing, and permanently dies.
Yeah.
Meantime, Readoff had gotten up here and cast a healing spell, just generally, and it hit a bunch of you guys, including Gamer Bardwin, who was unconscious and dying, or just unconscious at that time up here.
Yeah.
Gamer Bardwin is healed, becomes conscious again, and then there's this moment that I can see very clearly in my head, where Fella, for the first time, sees Gamer Bardwin, and Gamer Bardwin, for the first time, sees Fella, and they recognize each other as their long-lost sister. So we saw a while ago, Gamer Bardwin had this flashback of her sister falling off a cliff. She fell a long ways, and that is, of course, our character fell a long way. So As soon as Gamer Bardwin sees Fella leaves, and she is gone. We picked up with her on the side quest session, but for our main quest session, we have not seen her again. And so both of them are pretty shook. They're shooketh. Venom Fang gets real low and he starts to fly away, and he almost makes it. But Azrael, still flying, chases him off the edge. With 1 HP, I believe, that Venom Fang had left, Azrael throws a dart, hits against Venom Fang's 18 AC, and takes the dragon down in, like I said, probably my favorite combat of the campaign so far.
Pure luck.
This was really, really fun. Venom Fang almost got away. I was as he's like flying away, basically one more move and he's gone forever. You never see him again.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like, how am I going to bring him back, or something? I was thinking like, just thinking about. I think as a DM, you're always kind of like, how can I surprise my player? That guy that you fought in as a level 2 character comes back as a level 5 character, and you're more powerful and he's more powerful, and that's a fun interaction. But It wasn't meant to be, because you killed Venom Fang the dragon. And we ended the session right there. Really fun ending to that. And we only have like one more session to recap here, Vlor, which is that you guys started to make your way towards Cragmaw Castle. You guys did, and I don't know how players appreciate stuff like this, or even like viewers, but I really appreciate the discussions that you guys had as you were kind of doing some recon around Cragmaw Castle. I'm gonna switch to Cragmaw Castle now on the stream. No, maybe not. It's too many spoilers if I actually switch to the map, and you guys haven't even gotten into the map yet, so there's not really too much of a point.
Yeah.
But you guys did a lot of recon. You scouted around Cragmaw Castle, and you saw that there was a lot of patrols. There's guards. There seems to be guards 24 hours a day. And then you also saw like this pile of weapons, scrap metal. You couldn't quite tell what it was out in front of the castle. I gets up there as a bug or rat or something, and is scoping this thing out. Still doesn't really quite know what it is. Everybody else, I think Droop is like sneaking in there. You guys are far. Most of the rest of you are like 100 feet away or so in the shrubs.
Yeah.
And as you get up there, finally, as combat begins with these 4 goblins, it finally occurs and finally dawns on you. And I believe that even one of my favorite parts of that session is Cunning Fox goes, "Is this a tank?" Because indeed it was, Vlor, a goblin tank. So we're seeing the aftermath here. Now, you guys had some great stealth rolls and some other, actions that help. Like I can see that this one goblin that's on the map is like restrained in some way. I don't remember exactly what happened here, but you guys had some great rolls to get up there before all 4 of the goblins could get into the tank. So it wasn't fully functional, but the things that it did do was like fire out these coral snakes at you. So it had like this cannon that was firing out snakes. It also like fucking just ran Gamer Barter went over. And there was a rather large, loud combat out here in front of Cragmaw Castle. So as we head into the next session, you defeated the goblin tank, but everybody in Cragmaw Castle knows you're coming. So you're about to try to lay down a siege on this castle. And I got into the middle of this thing and cast the Thunder Wave and just murdered every goblin inside the tank. And then the tank, like the treads fell off and it was dead. Yeah. This is, of course, homebrew. There is no goblin tank in the Lost Mine of Phandelver. If you guys are following along at home in your Lost Mine campaign book, this is not a thing that's in the Lost Mine campaign. But it was just a fun little... I wanted to put a goblin tank in here, and by God, I did.
I have to say that I hated the goblin tank.
what did you hate about it?
I mean, it basically left my character completely useless. there wasn't really anything that I could do. I didn't have any kind of key points to spend for anything. It felt to me like an impenetrable machine.
Sure.
At least my character, at least.
Yeah,
Um,
and then but then for a character like she got in there and one-shotted it because you know what I mean? Like within a couple of rounds, she was inside. And, yeah, what is Vlor gonna do? I punch the tank. I mean, the
I
tank
said
had
that a
like
couple of times, didn't
the tank had like a 20 AC. I mean, it was like really hard to get into. So yeah, like you were left dealing with the snakes, and you did kill the. I think probably helped kill the one goblin that didn't make it in. Oh, I skipped over a big section here, Vlor.
I? Yeah.
In Thunder Tree.
Mm-hmm.
So let me before we end our podcast here, let's switch. I completely glossed over this, which was really one of the most meaningful things that happened in this campaign. So slap on the wrist for me. You had two dead characters now, both played by Cunning Fox Pup. And Redoth said, "I'm gonna take. It's gonna cost me a lot of money to resurrect, to get the supplies to resurrect. So this is the thing that I would put in place. I mean, it's in place in 5e, right? But this is the thing that I basically put in place to be like every time somebody dies, you're like, hey, Redoth, can you do the thing? Can you get him, Redoth? So I basically every bit of treasure that you got while you were in Thundertree went to Redoth as he flew to Neverwinter as a bird. He's like a bird, gonna fly to Neverwinter and get all the resurrection supplies.
Yeah.
And you guys had a big decision to make as to who you were going to resurrect. Now, because Droop had become like a ingratiated member of your party, like he was part of the group, and at this point he had been with the group almost as long as basically longer than Arlen had been.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you felt about that, because I know you landed on, and I know you landed on a certain side, and I'll tell you how I felt about it.
Yeah. So that was a difficult decision. You know, I played it more to the character. I know that with my character, Azrael, with his backstory, um, a lot of the killing and stuff from the people at the monastery had goblins as part of the group, and so it didn't feel right to choose a goblin over the person we came to this area to save.
Right.
Um, we came here to save Arlen, and it felt like that was being abandoned. And with all of the things that happened with Azrael up to this point, seeing friends die, seeing other people just taken away from their families and killed, and it had really come to a point where he got tired of seeing people thrown away, and that's kind of what it felt like. And he was more for Arlen, and I mean, Droop was great, but he he was a goblin,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and so I really put it squarely on Mini Bulba's shoulders as I as fuck, because really after Arlen died, I became sort of the de facto leader of this ragtag band. I felt like she was definitely making a lot of, like, let's just say, like, more decisive than some of the other party members as far as like, here's what we're gonna do now, hell or high water, here's how we're gonna act. Um, so I think Mini played that really well. I think Mini Bulb was on the side of resurrecting Arlen as well. And looking back on it, you guys probably spent a solid half an hour making this decision. And eventually I just was like, you guys need to decide. Redoth's
Yeah.
back. You need to make a decision. We need to know. I need to know so we can move on. We can't sit here forever and make this choice. And now thinking back on that time, I'm almost like, I feel like more people wanted to resurrect Arlen than wanted to resurrect Droop. But for some reason, I'm not saying it was gamer heroin. Like, want to resurrect Droop. I believe she did fall down on the side of Droop, saying she wanted to resurrect Droop, but I don't think that she was like overpowering that. She wasn't like screaming her decision out like it needed to be that. It was just,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it was chat's fault.
that's honestly a big part of it. I mean, I say fan favorite Droop with somewhat tongue in cheek, but really like when Droop first became like was in your party and I was playing him and he was like firing off crossbow shots and murdering people in the Red Brand hideout, that was a really hype moment for the stream. Everybody really loved Droop. Definitely chat had something to do with it, I think, for sure. Personally, there's a few things that I had thought about with this, which is that one, Arlen was not as high levels as you guys were. So you would have given up a level 3 character and then you would have had a level 2 paladin joining back up because you guys spent so much time doing other stuff. Like, let's say you had left let's say you'd left Phandalin and went right to Thunder Tree. You guys would have been much closer in level. But the amount of stuff that Arlen missed, like he missed several sessions of XP, and then getting back up, he was very easily a full level down from you at that point. So I was thinking about that. On the other hand, I was also thinking about party composition, which is we are still going to be dealing with. I mean, let's be... Why, Bixby? Why are you doing this? I'm not saying it. Ah! It's the second time my fucking phone has gone off. Like, I'm not even close. I'm not even close to saying its keyword. We're going to continue to have party composition issues because we do not have a tank. So right now our party is a rogue, a monk, a bard, and a druid. So we have no tank.
I believe we do now.
You do have a goblin. Oh yeah, but I ruined the goblin tank, so it's broken. I specifically made it broken so that you guys wouldn't be able to use it. Like, no, you're not going to use it. You're not going to siege the Cragmaw Castle with a goblin tank. That's not happening.
Gonna turn it into a halfling tank.
Yeah. Eventually, the decision is landed on that we're going to resurrect Droop. So let's take a look at the resurrection spell. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this up for you at all, vlor, but if you want to look it up yourself. Resurrection is a massive spell in 5e with a ton of text. Let me pull it up here for everybody. You touch a dead creature that has been dead for no more than a century, that didn't die of old age. No, it's not resurrection. It's reincarnation. I'm sorry. I keep saying resurrection. It's reincarnation. As soon as I started reading that, I was like, that's not right. Reincarnation 5e. Come on, Roll20. Hello? My internet just...
Oh, fish, no. Don't look at that.
All right. Yeah, so on the reincarnation table, you basically take a piece of a dead humanoid that's been dead for no more than 10 days, and the magic fashions a new body for the creature to inhabit. So, starting as a goblin, the reincarnation went through as Arlen's funeral pyre was burning, and you were, saying final goodbyes to Arlen and to Droop's old body as well. You ended up burning that on a pyre. Droop came back as a halfling, so now we have halfling Droop in our party. Yeah, a big moment for the stream. I think everybody felt like very conflicted about everything that happened there, and everybody was upset now that Arlen was going to be, gone forever. Halfling Droop was a whole new wrinkle. But just after that, basically, Fella had not returned, and Reedoff was like, I need to go find Fella. And that really set up like our whole side quest session. Just real quickly, Fella met up with another party. They adventured through an underground dungeon, and Reedoff came in, basically saved the day at the very end, which is a cool moment.
And of course, most importantly, Cunning Fox's character died.
Yeah, so in the side quest session, Cunning Fox's character died as a result of dragon breath weapon. So this is where we end, Vlor. This is where our podcast ends today, and we'll pick up next time, and it won't be 2 hours long next time. But next time when we meet, we'll have two different sessions to talk about. One is going to be, of course, the continuation of Lost Mine of Phandelver. We are getting very close to finishing the Lost Mine. I estimate that we will have Lost Mine completed by the end of this calendar year. And then from there, this group of people, Gamer Heroine, Mini Bulba, Cunning Fox Pup, and yourself are going to be then moving on to Storm King's Thunder, which I'm really looking forward to. And also, you lucky guy, you get to be in a second campaign that we're going to start here 1 week and 1 day from now, on September 28th. We're going to be starting the Rime of the Frost Maiden, a brand new campaign from Wizards of the Coast, with some new characters, and we're going to be joined by not only you, Vlor, but we're going to be joined by our buddies Jackson, Zundmaster, and Sunflower are all going to be playing some characters, and I've gotten everybody's backstory for their characters, and I'm excited to start working on some storytelling there, because that's going to be really fun just from what I've seen of the adventure so far. So next time we meet up, Vlor, we'll be discussing our next session of Phandelver, and we'll also be discussing our very first session of Rime of the Frost Maiden. So we're going to be putting these out about every 2 weeks, and hopefully it will not be 2 hours of me droning on while Vlora thinks about nothing but breakfast. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, my dude. I hope you had fun, and I hope this was great for both everybody who's watching the campaign and every one of our players as well, to try to catch up on where we are in this fun story that we're telling. You can catch my stream usually about 4 nights a week at twitch.tv/fishsuit, and right here on YouTube, where you're probably most likely watching this. The follow, the subscription, all that stuff means a lot, and the follow on Twitch means a lot as well. And you can catch these sessions live streamed. Our Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign is going to be every other Monday, and our Phandelver campaign is going to be every other Tuesday. That starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys so much. Until we meet again, may your rolls be 20s and other catchphrase thing. Bye, everyone.